All over the world, the final chapter in the narrative of every statesman is the building of a befitting resting place for their earthly remains. This is often considered a crucial gesture from the state and citizens who form the epicenter of the life struggles and immense sacrifices of these statesmen. This is usually so, since great nations do not fall from the skies, but are often the sum total of the dreams and visions of their founding fathers and other great personages whose life works help to give character and shape to the nation. The continent of Africa has outstanding founding fathers like Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya, Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Walimu Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, and Agostinho Neto of Angola. All these founding fathers have befitting mausoleums erected in their honor by their adoring and appreciative countries. Recently, the federal government under President Muhammadu Buhari finally mustered enough political will to complete the Mausoleum and Conference Center in honor of Nigeria's first Governor General and the country's first President, Right Honorable Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the Owele of Onitsha, the great Zik of Africa. The Mausoleum took 23 years of broken promises by successive administrations and bitter politics by different occupants of Aso Rock, Nigeria's seat of power, to complete. The widow of the great Zik of Africa, the Emeritus Professor Uche Azikiwe, offers a rare insight into her personal struggles to persuade successive administrations to give her husband the honor he richly deserved and the painful anxiety of the Azikiwe family over this matter for 23 years.
My late husband was laid to rest November 16, 1996 at a Mausoleum retreat, Onitsha. And the then government of Nigeria, that was a military government by Abacha, made a declaration that they are going to build a mausoleum in his honor that will contain conference center and every other thing, as is done in other countries. So the family was happy. We all said, yeah, he deserves it. Nobody will see it as something out of being a favor. I didn't see it as a favor to Anambra. I saw it as something he deserved from Nigeria. So we were very grateful to Abacha and the architects and every other group. They know themselves. They came together to prepare the plan. So we're happy. But a year, 1997, 98, we keep counting. This government will come, another one will come up, and so on. And, for me, it was very disturbing. It made me sad whenever I go to Onitsha or whenever I remember that my husband's resting place is still under construction or incomplete as it should be.
Indeed, the political dishonesty that trailed the building of a befitting mausoleum for the great Owele was a source of anguish to many broad-minded Nigerians and Africans who are familiar with the full weight of Zik's nationalist struggles to free Nigeria from colonial rule. While construction work lingered on the site of the mausoleum, it was as though Nigeria lacked the sense of history to appreciate the sacrifices and labor of our past heroes. That was until President Muhammadu Buhari came along. No sooner had President Buhari assumed leadership of the country than he had directed his Minister for Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola, to visit the abandoned mausoleum and bring the mausoleum to a speedy completion. Happily, for the first time in over 2 decades, the directive on Zik's mausoleum was handled with the maximum speed it required, And so, on Thursday, January 24, 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari arrived in the ancient city of Onitsha for the commissioning of the Mausoleum. The president's first port of call was the palace of the Obi of Onitsha, where the traditional rulers, the members of the clergy, and presidents general of town unions had gathered to meet him.
On my right here are all the Igwes in Anambra State, all of them. Whoever is not here is either sick or abstract. All of them are here. Then on my right here is all the PGs of the 179 communities in Anambra State. All of them are here with their president. They're all here. This is a representative of the clergy in Anambra State. Various denominations. They're all here, to welcome you, and some other dignitaries. If you don't mind, I'll stop at that. It's for the president to know who is here, who is going to address. Once more, sir, you're welcome to Anambra State. You're welcome, sir.
As would be expected, President Buhari took out time to answer niggling questions from the stakeholders.
I am impressed with the honest representations made by the representative of the Igwes. I will try and defend my administration. On the question of infrastructure, I'm not talking that I know that the last time the Enugu-Onitsha road was done was during the PTF days. And it was also then, again from Enugu to Fort Harcourt and back was done. Since then it was never attached until we came back again in a different form. Number two, marginalization of Southeast. Well, I'm pleased we have the courage to defend our respective immediate constituencies, but I expect you to be more patriotic in the presentation. In the Southeast, there are 5 states. In the North, I think there are 18 states. In the Southeast, out of the 5 states, I picked 5 members of the Executive Council. Foreign Affairs, Trade and Investment, Labor, Science and Technology. In 7 of the northern states, they have only ministers of state. They don't have ministers. I think I try to be fair. And you can ask these ministers. I have never asked any of them how are they running their parastatals, the boards and so on. I appointed them, I trust them, I allow them to work.
Mr. President and his team soon moved over to the historic Inosionira retreat, where the magnificent mausoleum was gleaming in the midday sun, waiting to be formally opened. The day began with a brief remark by the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola.
Excellency, as far as your mandate to the ministry to complete as many abandoned and uncompleted projects is concerned, I'm delighted to report on behalf of this team that on this project site of the Zik Mausoleum, our mission has been accomplished. I only wish to say, for the record, that there really was no big problem here, except that of funding. That was what stood in the way of completing this project. which was meant to honor the memory and service of a foremost patriot and nationalist who served this country and this continent selflessly. Between 1996, when the project was conceived, and 2015, when he took office, there were a period of 19 years, during which oil income and proceeds that accrued to Nigeria were reported to be in the hundreds of billions of United States dollars. Sadly, this national monument and tribute to patriotism was subordinated to private interests that did not benefit the Nigerian economy.
Welcoming Mr. President and sharing his thoughts on the honor done to his father, the son of the great Owele, Ambassador Emeka Azikiwe, also had a few remarks.
As we celebrate the commissioning of Zik Museum and Conference Center, the historic legacies led by Dr. Anambra and others are vital to the revitalization of the development potential of Africa. We will forever be remembered for the values and ideals of nationalism he preached and practiced. Once again, I would like to use this opportunity to thank President Buhari and the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Babajide Fashola, for the making of this project a reality.
The Obi of Onitsha, Igwe Nnemeka Achebe, also spoke extensively on the significance of the Mausoleum.
The construction of the Mausoleum and Conference Center as Zik's Inosionera retreat was conceived immediately following his translation to his ancestors in 1996. However, the project went through several vicissitudes in the hands of successive regimes before the Buhari administration came on board. A special gratitude and deep appreciation of Onitsha people must, therefore, go to President Muhammadu Buhari for bringing this project to physical completion. I stress physical completion. We also thank the Honorable Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola, SAN, for his passion, commitment and drive that made this project a reality.
He, however, pleaded that the mausoleum should not be abandoned once again after the commissioning and called for proper funding. The Obi of Onitsha also called for the revival of the Zik Foundation.
Now that the project has been physically completed, we earnestly pray that it should not be abandoned yet again, but rather that steps should be taken to make the facilities fully functional by immediately appointing its governing board and competent staff, as well as providing a steady operational funding. In that regard, we trust that the Anambra family and Onitsha Kingdom will be appropriately represented on the governing board. Finally, I would also stress that now is the moment to revive the Zik Foundation, which was formed to immortalize the great name of our departed leader.
Welcoming the president and his entourage, the governor of Anambra State, Chief Willie Obiano, sought to place the commissioning of the mausoleum in proper perspective.
On behalf of the government and people of Anambra State, I welcome everyone to the ancient city of Onitsha, host to the largest retail market in West Africa. I welcome you also to the hometown of the great Zik of Africa, the legend in whose honor we are gathered here today. Finally, I welcome you all to Anambra State, the light of the nation. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, today is a very important day in the history of our country, Nigeria, and in the narrative of our dear Anambra State. On a personal level, I have looked forward to this day with joy and fulfillment. Today, my heart is filled with joy and laughter, and I feel fulfilled that the great Owele of Onitsha is finally given the dignity he deserves in death. I am happy that with the commissioning of this magnificent mausoleum, Owele can now rest with the full honor and dignity and that befit a statesman of his stature. Your Excellency, the President, ladies and gentlemen, this mausoleum took 23 years to construct. So many past administrations played politics with it, making empty promises that they didn't keep. But President Buhari has shown that he's a man of his word. He has completed the mausoleum as he promised, and now the great Zik of Africa, the most distinguished of Nigeria's founding fathers, has been finally given a befitting resting place. We must thank Mr. President for this. It is gratifying to finally see the true meaning of the line in our national anthem that says, I quote, "The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain," unquote. Sincerely, with this mausoleum, the great Zik of Africa has been reassured of the gratitude of the country he lived and served and died for. And with the mausoleum too, the great Zik joins other illustrious sons of Africa whose remains currently rest in the befitting mausoleums across the continent. I'm talking about leaders like Angola's Agostinho Neto, whose mausoleum towers above the city of Luanda, standing at above 339 feet. Neto's mausoleum is taller than the famous Statue of Liberty in New York and Big Ben Bell Tower in London. I'm also talking about leaders like Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana and Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, whose mausoleums have become major tourist destinations in Accra and in Botswana.
Governor Obiano also used the opportunity to make a solid case for the declaration of November 16 as a national day in honor of the great Zik of Africa.
Indeed, Mr. President, we are grateful for this gesture and we deeply appreciate you for it. However, while we are thanking Mr. President for this mausoleum, we also pray to you to declare Zik's birthday, November 16, a national day in Nigeria. This will be in keeping with the honor and dignity conferred on other great African leaders of his caliber. For instance, Ghanaians mark every September 21st as Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Day. Similarly, October 14 is Julius Nyerere Day in Tanzania, while July the 18th is globally known as Nelson Mandela Day. It will therefore be a thing of pride to Africans if the federal government of Nigeria, under you, declares November 16 Nnamdi Azikiwe Memorial Day. It will be a day set aside for reflection on the life and times of the great Zik and his Pan-Africanist struggles, his thoughts and philosophies. Your Excellencies, I think that this gesture is long overdue.
To God be the glory for the great things He has done. I am delighted to be in your midst to perform a simple ceremony of commissioning a private building that has enormous national and international ramifications. This is meant to honor the memory of Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the Owele of Onitsha, the great Zik of Africa, and Nigeria's first president, and one of her foremost nationalists. As I reflected on Zik's life and all of what he achieved, I acknowledge that Zik does not need this house. It is we who need Zik's name to give this house a meaning. I acknowledge that Zik's name is also everywhere in Nigeria, including the airport in Abuja, because Zik chose not to limit himself to the place of his birth, Zungeru. He had no choice. Rather than Zik choosing to be a local, he chose to be a nationalistic. He embraced all the vast territory of Nigeria. I acknowledge that while we dedicate brick and mortar in his honor and memory, Zik has chosen to build incredibly, indelibly in our hearts by his service, comradeship, brotherhood, and of course, his most engaging politics. Therefore, like many who live in our hearts, the great Zik of Africa, the Owele of Onitsha, will remain evergreen. My hope and expectations are that this building will be a reminder to all of us of the best values that Zik espoused in knowledge, service, and leadership.
After the speeches, Mr. President and his team proceeded to the entrance of the mausoleum for the formal opening of the place, followed by an immediate tour of the facilities.
Well, I will just read what is here. And the Conference Center Administrative Building commissioned by Muhammad Buhari, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, on this day, the 24th of January, 2019. Thank you very much.
As Mr. President rounded off the tour of facilities at the Mausoleum and the Conference Center, it became clear that another milestone had been recorded by an appreciative nation in memory of her most prominent hero. And while thanking the federal government for honoring her husband with a proper resting place, the wife of the late statesman, Professor Uche Azikiwe, observed that no honor done to the great Zik could, in all sincerity, be deemed too much for him.
It has been an excruciating pain for somebody like Anambra Azikiwe, considering his sacrifices to make Nigeria one, to give Nigeria independence, that his resting place is abandoned for 20-something years. Nobody will be happy, and there will be no genuine reason for that. No matter what any government tells me, I won't accept it as being the reason why it should not be completed or it was abandoned. So this time around, we are happy. He deserves it. It is his right.
She re-echoed Governor Obiano's call for a national day to be set aside in honor of the great Zik.
What Governor Obiano requested is in order, and I pray that the government in Nigeria, any government, this one, next, whoever, will see it will deem it fit and proper to make November 16
a national day.
National Day.
Oh, okay.
I don't think there's anything anyone would ask to be done for Anambra Azikiwe that would be too much, considering his struggle, his sacrifices. For 25 years, according to him, I fought for what independence of Nigeria. But the highest aspect that touches me is when he said, I don't care who becomes the Prime Minister. I'm not after the position. What I'm after is the freedom of my people. That shows you a patriot, a nationalist. He wasn't struggling to get power, to grab power, to be the first Prime Minister. He was struggling for what? The masses.
To underscore the weight of Zik's sacrifice for Nigeria, Professor Azikiwe even asked a rhetorical question.
What could have happened if he said, I must be the Prime Minister? You know what? We would have shed blood in Nigeria to get it. But our independence was on a platter of gold. No crisis, nothing. They played real politics. The British people could not do anything than to say, go, you people, get your independence.
All things considered, the completion and commissioning of a befitting mausoleum in honor of the great Owele of Onitsha finally brings closure to the phenomenal life of one of Africa's greatest nationalists, Pan-Africanist, orator, poet, and statesman, the Owele Osowanya of Onitsha, Nigeria's only indigenous Governor General and the first President of the Federal Republic, the Right Honorable Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. May his soul continue to rest in perfect peace. Amen.